Good evening.
Good evening.
It's my pleasure to call to order this evening at this time for our regular September school board meeting. You call our meeting to order and welcome all of you at this time. So at this time, I'd like to ask someone to entertain or give a motion to bring us into open session.
I make a motion, we return to open session.
It's been properly moved in second that we return to open session. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion is carried. At this time, I shall entertain a motion of certification relative to the Code of Virginia and action that we have taken or discussed in closed session.
Madam Chairman,
Yes.
whereas the Franklin City School Board has convened a closed meeting on this date pursuant to an affirmative recorded vote and in accordance with the provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act. And whereas Section 2.2-3712.d of the Code of Virginia requires a certification by this school board that such closed meeting was conducted in conformity with Virginia law. Now therefore be it resolved that the Franklin City School Board hereby certifies that to the best of each member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted by Virginia law were discussed in the closed meeting to which this certification applies, and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion convening the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered.
Second.
It's been properly moved in second that the Franklin City School Board convene in a closed session according to the Freedom of Information Act pursuant to Code 2.2-3712A of Virginia, and that we only discussed and considered the assignment, performance, salaries, resignation, and evaluation of employees and departments, and that we also discussed items as indicated in number 1, number 2. You've heard the motion. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion is carried. Thank you all so much. At this time, are there motions from the closed session?
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we approve the personnel agenda as was presented.
I second.
There has been motion and second that we approve the personnel agenda as presented. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? The motion is carried. Is there another motion from closed session?
I make a motion, we approve the non-resident enrollment for student 09-18-01. I second.
It's been properly moved in second that we approve the non-resident student for enrollment, and that student is indicated 09-18-01. Have you heard? Is there any discussion? Hearing the motion. Any? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? The motion is carried. I would also like to go back and have the roll call. Mrs. Kendrick.
Nancy Dodd. Here. Donna Walton. Here. Sharia Ricks Parker. Here. Edna King.
Here.
Jeanette Austin.
Here.
Dr. Paul Leonard.
Here.
All right, thank you so very much. And Mr. Counsel is not here because of employment issues. Will we ask, well, at this time, will the principal come forward or have a teacher to introduce the person who will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Madam Chair, board members, for the month of September, our pledge will be presented by a student from S.P. Morton Elementary School. And after she leads us in the pledge, she would then introduce herself and give us her short bio.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Miss Rebecca Lowe. She is one of my 5th grade Dream Team members, and I will let her introduce the student that they chose to represent S.P. Morton this evening to lead us in the pledge.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Isis Brown. She is quiet and polite and bright, but I promise you she's going to say this pledge loudly and clearly, right?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
My name is Isis Brown. My name is Isis Brown, and I'm 2 years old, and I want to be a lawyer when I grow up.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you so very much, and of course, we wish you the very best in pursuing your indicated career. Approval of the agenda. May I have a motion?
Make a motion to approve the agenda as presented. Second.
It's been properly moved in second that we accept and approve the agenda as presented. You've heard the motion. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Opposed? The motion is carried. Good news. And I suppose, Mr. Bell, you would do that?
Yes, ma'am. Madam Chair, board members, the first part of our good news communication tonight will be the P-Cube Club, the Project Pollution Prevention Club that we would like to recognize tonight for their extra efforts and commitment to maintaining a clean and healthy environment. Mrs. Rabel and the team, will you please come forward?
We are missing two. We're coming from band. Sorry.
Mrs. Rabel. And the certificate of recognition reads, "Thank you for your hard work, dedication, and commitment to maintain a clean and healthy environment." Awarded this 18th day of September 2014, signed by yours truly, Willie J. Bell Jr., Division Superintendent, and our school board chairperson, Mrs. Edna King. All right, congratulations.
On behalf of the team, I'd like to thank you all for this opportunity. They are working very hard. We work today right after school, and we're working again Sunday. They have a lot to accomplish, and today we had a contest for the plastic bag challenge that we're having, and J.P. King brought in more than 5,000 plastic bags today. So as of today, the three schools have brought in almost 14,000 bags.
Outstanding.
So we have other things we're doing too, like you saw the drains. And next Wednesday, these students will be presenting the downtown recycling plan to all the businesses and giving them their recycling bins and showing them where all the large bins will be placed downtown. So starting probably the 1st of October, they will, all of Franklin will have the opportunity to recycle.
Outstanding.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Rabel.
staff set examples for students, motivated them, encouraged them, and it means that with your commitment, you attain the achievement level which we expected, and we knew that you would. We thank you so very much, you and your staff. We've noticed that you are very bonded staff. I tell Mr. Phelps that all the time. He has this no-nonsense type of leadership style, and I tell him when I usually want to commend him for his outstanding work. He said, "It's my faculty, it's my faculty," and that is always so appropriate, Mr. Phelps. But this evening, we do want to recognize all of you because you have attained an awful lot. We know that we have many challenges in our school division. We know that we are going to do well this year. We believe it. And with Mrs. Francis next year, Mrs. Francis always says to me, "I'm coming out this year." And Mrs. Francis, you may use Mr. Phelps as an example. And we believe too that that's going to happen. And we would like for you at this time, all of you, to come forward and receive this plaque. And the plaque reads, Achievement Award, presented to Franklin High School. This award is being presented with esteemed honor for the outstanding achievement of reaching full accreditation status for the 2013-14 school year. The Franklin City School Board would like to commend the administrators, faculty, and staff of Franklin High School for their hard work and dedication to acquire this distinguished accomplishment. Presented by Franklin City School Board, Mr. Will Council, Vice Chair, Jeanette Austin, Mrs. Nancy Garden, I should say Mrs. Jeanette Austin, Dr. Andrea Hall Leonard, Mrs. Sharita Ricks Parker, Mrs. Donna Walton, Mr. Willie Bell, Division Superintendent, and Edna King, Board Chair. Will all of you come forward? We'd like to shake your hand and wish you
Sure. I had some notes back there, but I didn't bring them, and that's probably good. I just want to thank this group of dedicated educators standing here with me. We also have quite a few that are at Franklin High School tonight because we do have a volleyball game that we had to have supervised, and we have some on athletic trips that are here in spirit. So I want to thank everyone on last year's staff and our newcomers this year who are going to keep it going, and we're going to achieve even bigger and better things. People have asked me, how did we achieve this? I guess some people ask that question like they were surprised or shocked that we did this. I really wish that our students could be here with us tonight because they're a big part of this team. They're the ones who actually took the test, so we can't forget that they are a part of our team also. But I think the reasons are not anything that's profound. It was hard work, it was dedication, it was relationships, it was Dr. Bell allowing me to be principal and make decisions and backing me up, and I hope that my staff would say the same thing about me. I don't try to micromanage what they do because I feel like I'm more of a supporter and a coach than I am someone wanting to tell somebody how to do their job. I think all that put together is the reason we were successful, but we have not arrived. We have lots of room for growth. And I've been comparing us, because I'm a competitive person, I used to be a coach. I've been comparing us to schools all around the area, and we still have some schools we need to catch and beat. So we have not arrived, and we're going to achieve even better things this year.
Good job.
Thank you.
Well, can I get big cheese, big smile, going to your book?
citizens' time. Do we have anyone signed up to speak? Mrs. Kendrick? All right. And we've done the motions from closed session. Report of the superintendent.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
board
ma'am.
members, the first item under the report of the superintendent is the professional development log. It is there for your purview. At this time, do you have any questions concerning the professional development log for July and August?
I had one question, and that was the workshop on the Texas Instrument. Was that calculators or?
Yes, ma'am.
It was?
It's calculated.
Okay, calculator. Have we used these prior? We've been using them ongoing?
Yes, ma'am.
Has there been a change in the instrument, or it was just a refresher? Wonderful, terrific. And that's a big asset when it comes to performance students on the SOLs. That's terrific. Another good thing that you're doing, Mr. Bell, wonderful, right?
Any questions? Under 4.2, the monthly financial report, Mrs. Yates, as I indicated before to the board, has illness in her family, but the financial report is also for your purview, where you see revenues and expenditures in the operating budget, Title I, as well as food services. Any questions at this time?
I just had, I think, a question. Does anyone have a question? Anyone else? Any questions about the finances? In looking at the financial report and operation and maintenance, having expended 58% and 36% of this budget since July 1, how does that look as we continue for the year?
As I've spoken with Mrs. Yates, I think we'll be okay because the majority of the capital improvements that we've had are just the roofing projects and things of that nature. So once we complete that, we should be finished. We should be good for the rest of the year.
Good.
Because those are the major projects. And also, you know, we had the serving lines in the cafeterias. So those are the major projects.
And the governor has recently approved his budget, has he not, Mr. Bell? He said something about there being a deficit,
Yes, ma'am.
triple-digit millions of
Yes, ma'am.
dollars. Now, how does that impact? I know he said that there would be no cuts probably to elementary and secondary education, but how does that impact our basic state aid? Or will it have, do you think it will have any effect, or will we already know, do we already know what we're getting from the state despite the reduction?
Not at this time.
We
They
don't?
have not released that as of yet.
How early do we usually find that out?
Usually it's around January or February.
Okay, the basic state aid. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Madam Chair
Yes, Mr. Bell.
and board members, also 4.3, you see for your purview, we have highlights and accomplishments for Franklin City Public Schools for this school year. And what we wanted to do was showcase the first 45 days of heavy lifting that the team has been involved in. I commend the staff for all their hard work and dedication, because as we talked about the staff attendance in the month of August, we were at 99%. And we would not been able to do what we did in the first 45 days with these 38 items that you see if we had not had everyone dedicated, committed, and flying in V formation. So to the staff, my hat's off to you as we continue to embark upon an outstanding year. My hat's off to the board for supporting us and letting us do what we do.
And this is a terrific increase in partnerships.
Yes, ma'am.
So does that mean that, or indicate that you've gone out in the community, talked to people, and increased this number of partnerships?
Yes, ma'am. Not only myself, but my staff are steady forging partnerships at the school level. We're steady forging partnerships here at the Central Services, we are steady forging partnerships each day. Even during lunchtime, we're having conversations when we're sitting down. We're seeing people, we're having conversations, and believe it or not, they are willing and ready to work with Franklin City Public Schools.
Very good. Anybody else with a question? Anyone else? The established MOU with the Boys and Girls Club, have we had an MOU prior, Mr. Bill? Is this the first time?
This is the first time.
Is,
It was I think, basically a verbal agreement, but we never really had anything in writing. So we're working with Dave Zobel, the director, to put something in writing where the board can see it, and then we can approve that we actually have a memorandum of understanding.
so the MOU is sort of something that's ongoing, you're writing it now?
Yes, ma'am, we're writing it now
Oh, that is
and developing
terrific.
now.
Wonderful, because this is such an important initiative, and with us having it in our school, it gives easy access for the students, and parents really use the program.
Yes, ma'am.
So this is really great. Thank you. Any other question or comment? Anyone? All right, was there another report, Mr. Bell? I think
Yes,
that
ma'am.
was.
The superintendent's monthly update, we are doing something a little different. We're still going to call all of our coordinators, supervisors, and directors. However, we aligned the update to the 4 strands in the MOU under curricular alignment, human resources, purpose and direction, as well as leadership and governance. So when the coordinators, supervisors, and directors come forward, they will identify where they are speaking from, but also, board members, you see behind each bulleted item, their last name is in bold.
Absolutely.
So you see exactly where they will be communicating from. So we wanted to use one document to keep you informed. Is that okay? All right.
This works very well.
Okay.
Very
All right.
well. Thank you.
Mr. Spall, we'd like to call you first. And Mr. Spall, I believe most of his is under at the end.
Our accomplishments in the recent weeks have basically been getting ready for school and handling things after school opens. We did get a tablet cart done in that time as well. Knocking out work orders again is a priority right now and has been for several weeks. Any questions on our report?
Just that one question that I asked last month, where are we in advancing the utilization of technology in the classroom?
Well, for wireless specifically, Mr. Wright and a team has been, and I'm on that team as well, we're working on a bring your own device strategy. This will be a process where we will have to investigate a number of issues, a number of strategies and the instructional value of it. But moving forward, that will probably be our biggest initiative regarding that, where devices can be brought from home and used in an instructional setting.
And also, Madam Chair, we are aggressively seeking funds to see if we can perform a one-to-one initiative for next school year. We feel like we may be able to equip, working on trying to equip our core areas first before we can equip all 1,150 to 1,200 students. So we are aggressively seeking funding and partnerships to help us with that.
Terrific. So if you're looking at bring your own device policy, that's what we currently are. And so do we have a team within the system working on that?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh,
Yes, ma'am.
great.
Yes, ma'am.
Good.
Any questions?
Mr. Spall. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Spall. At this time, Mr. Whiting.
Good evening.
Good
Good
evening.
evening, sir.
Hopefully from the world of no news is good news. We've got obviously we've got school up and running. We've had to revise a couple of bus schedules. just to kind of simplify things and shorten up the time that students are on the bus. Like I said, all the students have been picked up and taken home every day, and of course the first couple of weeks of school is always a challenge because the little ones don't necessarily know where they're going. But we managed to, between Jason and myself and the staff over there, we managed to get them all home every day, and so that was a good sign. And so, and like I said, we got all the buses are back now, and we got one bus down right this minute, but all the transportation's up and running. So, any questions on the transportation side?
Seems not to be any. We appreciate that. We appreciate that our school started so well. It just seemed as though it was just a smooth opening. And transportation is a very important part of that. The little children getting on the buses, having to learn bus routes and everything, and their bus number.
Right.
And we didn't hear any exciting news about that. So we assumed that it just went very well. And we thank you, Mr. Whiting.
Okay. And then on the cafeteria side, all the cafeteria equipment, all the new equipment is in, the serving lines are in, the ovens are in. There's one warmer that we still have not, we're still having an issue with, just on its placement, but all the new equipment from both ABM and from the grant we had, had last year, all that equipment is in.
So that's at all of the schools?
At all 3 schools, yes, sir. So.
If you haven't seen it, you need to go see it.
It's nice. It's very nice.
Maybe
So-
one day we'll get a chance to go
And the
have
ladies
lunch.
love them. The
They do.
ladies love
That's
them.
true.
They do.
Very good.
It is.
How
And
nice.
I want to say we thank you for that.
Well, we thank you for all your hard work. That's great.
Additionally, on the cafeteria side, we're also, I wrote a grant for breakfast in the classroom, and we're doing breakfast in the classroom at the elementary school. And the way that procedure is working is that students, as soon as they come in off the bus, they get their breakfast immediately, and then they take it to class with them. This gives more seat time for the teacher because they can do some administrative things while the students are actually eating their breakfast, turning homework, things like that. And so it does give them some more seat time. And it, like I said, for us, it's a little more challenging on our end, and that's why we wrote the grant to try to make up for some of the differences, because we have to basically, we're bagging up all the food now so they can come in and they just grab and go. So we're going to be, hopefully, once we get the grant, if we get the grant, we're going to be improving that a little bit. The meals are going to be in a sealed container like you would see it at a food line or Walmart or whatever. So it'll be a little more appetizing than being in a paper bag, but that's what we're working on right now on that side. So.
That's good. So do students have a choice, or does each child pick up a breakfast?
They have a choice of 3 breakfasts. There's generally a hot meal, and there's a hot meal and the items that go with that. You have to have a juice and milk, and that makes up a complete meal. And then we have yogurt and crackers and graham crackers, and there's a fruit in each. Has to be a fruit in each meal. And then there's cereal and milk and a fruit in there. So there's 3 choices that they get every day.
And last time you said something about a grant for lunches.
Yes, I was going to ask the same question in reference to being able for free lunch.
Oh, we are doing,
All
well, we're doing free lunch, yeah. That wasn't
Okay.
a grant, that's
Okay.
no ma'am. That was just they have 2 programs going on at state level. One of them was Provision 2 and one of them was a community eligibility program. We submitted for both. And just recently, in the last day or 2, they told me that we're going to be approved for the community eligibility program. So both of them provide for all the students to eat for free. So we're providing free
That's-
breakfast and free lunch for all the students
Thank
this
you.
year. So,
Thank you so very much.
okay. Any other questions? All
And
right,
it's
thank
good
you.
to hear all of the grant emphasis, isn't that wonderful?
Thank you, Mr. White. Ms. Beaman?
Good evening.
Good evening.
In front of you, you have my report, and I will start with the curricular alignment. First off, we had a webinar, and I worked with that as well as my instructional specialists and several of the teachers. And that webinar updated us on the new V programs, or V assessments, such as the VSEP, the VAPs, any new items that were coming up for this 2014-15 school year. Also, the local gifted plan has been drafted. We were going to bring that to you today, but we want to take a little bit more time with it, so we will be bringing it to you at a later time. And do you have any questions or anything for that?
Board,
Okay.
we would try to bring the local plan to you at the next work session. We wanted to take another in-depth look to make sure that we had all components that we needed.
Also, I wanted to highlight that we have 100% of our paraprofessionals are now trained. It was a requirement by VDOE, even our new staff. They've all been trained and they're fully certified for paraprofessionals working with students with autism. Under purpose and direction, just to highlight that we have visited our CSEP sites, and that's something that we're trying to do every year to make sure that we're going out and visiting our students who are in those programs and meeting with teachers and meeting with the staff there, because they're our responsibility as well. So we want to make sure that we are keeping good tabs on what's going on in our CSEP and all of the alternative programs. And the last part that I wanted to highlight, sorry, let me get my papers, was under, we also did some baseline testing with our students to make sure that we have a good foundation of where they are, and so we can monitor that progress, because we want to be sure that our students are moving along, so when we get time to the SOLs and them taking the V assessments and providing that documentation, that we have monitored them the whole way to make sure that they're progressing.
Yes, I had a question,
Sure.
Mrs. Beeman, and I think we may have talked about this before, but I'm not sure if you were here. In reference to the number of students that receive or have been classified for exceptional education, do we know annually how many students remain under this category and how many students are actually exited per year? And if you don't, maybe this is something we can get back to at a later date.
We can certainly look into that, but we
Okay.
try to be very cautious about finding students with disabilities. And it's not typical that students necessarily grow out of disabilities, however, they learn to compensate. So we may have students who remain in the program for a long time. However, we're working with them for strategies, for self-advocacy, and just working with those students and watching them to progress. So we may not have a lot of necessarily exiting, because usually disabilities continue to exist for most students.
Okay, and also something else, I would also like to see, and I don't know if the other board members would like to have it as well, how many of the students actually test for the standards of learning, how many actually take the standards test versus maybe the VGLA or the VAP? How many are actually testing, especially at the high school level?
Sure, we can
Okay.
certainly get you those numbers. The majority of
Okay.
our students do take the SOLs.
They do take, okay.
The majority, but we do have a number of students who are taking the alternative assessment.
Okay, and do we know like how many of those students are successful?
Oh, certainly, we can,
Okay.
yeah.
I would like to have, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Any other questions? No? Thank you, Mrs. Boone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bean. Mr. Edwards. Mr. Edwards will also cover Mr. Custer's portion tonight. This is Mr. Edwards' first board meeting.
Yes, sir.
Welcome, Mr. Edwards.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
board members, good evening. I'd like to, happy to report, and yes, Ms. Bell, my first board meeting, and happy to report that when you look at where we are right now, we think we're in a good place, because what we're doing is we're looking at increasing our communication. And when I say increasing our communication, working with Mr. Spa, the website is gradually being upgraded, and we are also having surveys that we're sending out to the community. One example is that we've surveyed the staff and faculty here in Franklin City Public Schools about the effectiveness of the canvassing tour and about the professional development they were in. And Mrs. Harris worked diligently to get that survey out to all our stakeholders, and we do have the results, and the results look great. And so we're putting accountability in everything that we do, because we do not know how to get better unless we hear from our stakeholders and they tell us what is it that we can do on the opportunities for improvement. Also, we're looking at interventions for our students on the exceptional children side, the Academy of Reading and the Academy of Math. We're looking at increasing our interventions. And we're also looking at how we can get our message out, exploring Twitter and how we can upgrade on Facebook. Also, in the arena of communication, we're looking at publishing a weekly e-blast. And we do have that already in format, just looking forward to work with technology and getting that out. Simply what that is, we want to tell the community good things that are going on in Franklin City Public Schools weekly, and that will go out every Thursday. So that's in a nutshell what we've been doing thus far on the accountability side. And of course, testing is already underway. Working with Mr. Phelps, we've already had the summer retakes, and we're preparing for our testing season because when it starts and it doesn't stop.
Mr. Edwards?
Yes,
In
ma'am.
reference to the Academy of Reading and Academy of Math.
Yes.
Can you expound on that a little bit more?
Yes, it is an intervention that
Okay.
we're exploring that will assist our students who are struggling in the area of reading and are struggling in the area of math. So basically, we disaggregate the data, look at the students that are struggling, and these are interventions that they can look at to help them get up to par on the SOLs and even in everyday classrooms.
Is this after school or during the school day?
We're happy to say it can be doing both. It's an at-home and in-school connection. And when we look at interventions from now on, we're going to look at those things that our students can do at school and at home. So both.
And to expound upon that a little bit more, Dr. Leonard, the research with the program shows that a student consistently for 45 minutes, for 45 days, can grow 2 grade levels.
Yes.
So that is it's a powerful program. Mr. Edwards and I had the opportunity to utilize this program in North Carolina.
So parents would also receive information, so there will be a carryover at home?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Right.
Thank you.
And look at exposing our parents and stakeholders to, that basically, again, that home and school connectivity. When we look at the quantiles for math and the lexiles for reading, we're going to make that available to all our stakeholders here in the community. Yes.
Any further questions or comments? Very good, Mr. Edwards, and
Thank you, Ms.
we're glad that you're with us.
I'm so happy to be here. Yes, ma'am.
Seems like in the past, and I might be totally making this up, it seems like we sent out to, in the mail to everybody in Franklin, kind of, what our mission is, and our goals are, and might have testing results for the year, kind of a state of the schools type
Right.
flyer, if you would, or, haven't we done that?
Yes, we
in the past?
have.
Okay. Are we going to do that again, or?
Yes, ma'am. In consultation with Mr. Bell?
Yes, ma'am. What we wanted to do first was to display the data for you, and then once you had the opportunity to look at it, because it just came out Tuesday, then we can explore the opportunities to make sure that our public sees all of the data as we continue to be transparent.
And I believe in the past, and correct me if I'm wrong, it was in the annual report?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, that's what it
Yes,
was
ma'am.
called.
Okay.
isn't
Yes,
it?
ma'am. And also, the public can also access the website and pull the division report cards, because they have been updated.
And on the maintenance side, Mr. Custer and the maintenance crew, and hats off to the maintenance staff, because as you know, when you're getting ready for schools to open, it can be a trying experience. Air conditions go out and they're scurrying around, working night and day, trying to get units replaced, and they've done a marvelous job. So and the roof construction at J.P. King is coming as we planned, and air conditioning units, HVAC units have been replaced, and even the stages have been taken care of at SP Morton and at other facilities. And so we're happy to report that our maintenance staff is doing an excellent job keeping our schools up and running. Now that is, I do not know the exact, as soon as I will find that out for you, Ms. Godwin. Yes, ma'am.
If it doesn't rain, then we can finish it up.
Yes.
But the rain is delaying.
If it doesn't rain today, Robbie the Roofman told me that possibly next week.
Outstanding. Thank you.
They're rolling, and the concrete's on, they're
That's
rolling.
wonderful.
They were still there when I came out, so not like.
Working day and night.
And Ms. Godwin, I check on them Saturday and Sunday. They're over there Saturday and Sunday. Yes, ma'am. I can see them. Yeah.
What is the noise level like during instructional time?
Not bad, you know, just every now and then a solo or pain, you know, it's not bad. This, the worst part's over. This part,
Good.
you know, is a lot quieter. We're ready for it.
Absolutely.
Be nice.
Anybody else with questions or comments for Mr. Edwards? Thank you so very much.
Thank you so much.
Before Dr. Smith comes, I will just review Mrs. Wade's portion on the human resources. And a lot of these items, Board, you are aware of already with all the accomplishments that we've had in terms of revising the hiring procedures manual, conducting new teacher sign-on bonuses, looking at making sure that everyone is licensed and certified, and everybody, we have 100% of our staff is licensed and endorsed and in the area that they're supposed to teach in. Also, we've done some revisions to the policies to make sure they were aligned with the Virginia Department of Education as well as the VSBA. A lot of these things that you have seen that we have listed here, you are definitely aware of. There's one thing that I want to elaborate on the third page. The first new teacher training was successful. We held that first session September the 8th, and all our new teachers have a mentor, and this year we're expecting great things from them as we continue to mentor and coach, so they can stay with us. Any questions on the human resources and administrative services?
Any questions, anyone, any comments? All right, thank you so very much, Mr. Bell.
And the reason we did not forget our manners, ladies, by letting Dr. Smith go last, but we wanted her to also, when she presented her sections, to also go into the data. So we would have let the ladies go first, and Mr. Edwards and everyone else would have gone last. Dr. Smith?
Mrs. Beeman was in there, so
Yeah.
we noticed it, so.
All right. Good evening, Madam Chair, my board members, superintendent, community, and colleagues. Much of what you have before you, you've seen throughout during our weekly reports to you, so I'll try not to be redundant. We had a wealth of staff development during August, where we had to present the information as shared with us from the Virginia Department of Education Office of School Improvement. So I did want to highlight that to make sure that everyone is aware that we attended the training as required, and we also did turnaround training with our staff as required. Also, we have a new, well, it's not necessarily a new initiative, but the elementary school is participating in a pilot. You will see under curricular alignment, we are participating in a pilot with Curry School of Education at UVA, and it's called the Virginia's Kindergarten Readiness Project. And that's basically, we had a teacher to volunteer to do it in kindergarten. And what they're going to do is assess those students in mathematics. They're trying to create a comprehensive assessment for those students for reading and math. It's just reading right now. They're working on math. Purpose and direction. I always share with you that when I meet with the chief academic officer, and so we have been meeting to make sure that everything's in order with all of our federal grants and all of the requirements with regards to the corrective action plan and the essential actions that we have to take care of in terms of curriculum alignment. And without further ado, I have the performance of our schools with regards to the spring 2014 SOL assessment. I know we came before you with some preliminary scores, and we were pretty close with our prediction, I guess, with regards to where our schools would stand at this point. This presentation It's based on information that we garnered out of SSWS, as well as the information that has been released by the Virginia Department of Education. And I also made certain that it matched what was in the Virginia Department of Education report card that was just released. So without further ado, if we could go to the next slide, Ms. Harris. We have SP Morton. For the current year, the students in the school had a 39% pass rate in English. Mathematics was 41. History was 85, and science was 30% for the current year. We are pleased with the history results. It's obvious that they worked very hard there. We have a great deal of work to do, but we are very confident in the administrative team that we now have in place, with the teachers that we have hired, because we plan to do some heavy lifting and to get the school to where it needs to be. And the only way that we can do that is by working together. And so right now we're forging that relationship. We're in the buildings, we're monitoring, we're giving feedback, and we're moving forward. So this is where we are. We look at this as baseline, and we're going to make the necessary strides. And you know what the benchmarks are and what we have to meet, which is 75% in English and 70% in mathematics, history, and science. And you will note at the bottom of that slide that we are accredited with warning. We're warned in English, mathematics, and science. Ms. Harris? For J.P. King Middle School, for current year performance, English was a 69%, mathematics was a 64%, history was a 68%, and science was a 57%. That's what the kids did, the school did this spring administration. The benchmarks are 75% in English and math, 70%. They have done a lot of work, and they don't have much further to go, but they have to keep going at the rate and the pace at which they're going now. Right now, we need to make sure that we hit those benchmarks on the head this year. The 3-year average will not help us to get to where we need to be. So with that being said, it is our charge, and I'm sure Ms. Francis is all over it, but we need to have 75% in English, 70% in math, history, and science. And as I stated earlier, we've already started making rounds in the building, having those discussions, and doing some course correction as needed, and continuing the practices that worked for that building last year. If it's working, keep doing it, because obviously they've made some gains. And by looking at those and being in the 60s, it is not, it's not impossible. So we feel very confident that they will get there next year. And I know you'll remember that I said that, because you remembered what Mr. Phelps said. So, Ms. Francis.
Keep saying that, yes.
And they are accredited with warning. They're warned in English, warned in math, history, and science. And I know that you all are keen, and you see that extra subject area up there from last year. But what I can say is you also see a consistency in the percentages. It's not like they're way up and way down. So that means we'll probably be able to move all of those in the right direction. So we feel good with that. And so that you will know that we are all aware that the school must make full accreditation next year. Because if not, we may have to look at the fact that they may be determined or put in status of denied accreditation, and we do not want that. So we will be working and working and working, because that is not an option for us. So I just wanted to share that with you so that you all are aware as well.
Excuse me.
Yes,
Dr.
ma'am.
Smith, is that for both, because you mentioned that for Joseph P. King, but is that for SP Morton as well?
No, it's
Oh,
for
that's
J.P.
just
King.
specific to J.P. King.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
and Franklin High School that we celebrated earlier this evening. We are proud to report that they are fully accredited. Current year, 73. The benchmark is 75, but that's okay. They got it with the 3-year average at 80%. Our eyes are all over English. Mr. Phelps is all over English because we want to make sure that we do not rely on a 3-year average. We want to get it the first time around. Mathematics, 73, and we are so proud of our 73 because you all know from whence we came. And so my hat's off to Mr. Phelps, his math team, and all of the hard work that they did to get that accomplished. History, current year, a whopping 85%. And the benchmark is a 70%. And they too have worked very hard and have moved a long way from where we started at the onset of that school year. Science, at 81%. Benchmark is 70. We just can't say enough. They well exceed the benchmark. And the GCI, 85%. They have yes in every category, and they are fully accredited, and we are proud of them. So, yay!
Dr. Smith, before you move on, in reference to, I'm looking at mathematics, and where we stand, now, are we doing something in reference to either tutorial or adding maybe a math academy at the high school?
A math academy at the high school. I know with regards to tutorial, and Mr. Phelps, you can stop me if I say something wrong, but the last time I checked, one of the things that they do, are they have their math team meetings, and they look at data. And from that data, they can determine which students are in need of support, and then they provide or dispatch those persons to support those students. Now, I know in some instances, they did have after-school tutorial to support those kids, if I'm not mistaken.
Mondays and Wednesdays are our math tutorial days. Okay. For after school.
For after school.
Built in during the daytime also.
Right. So they're getting it during and after school.
Thank you.
And it's targeted.
And it seems like there's some
Saturday Academy.
We have our Saturday SOL academies,
Mhm.
5 Saturdays per semester, so it's 10 Saturdays per year. And those, I attribute a lot of our success to that.
You have good turnout for that?
Some Saturdays are better than others. When it gets closer to testing, our turnout's better because there's a sense of urgency among the students. So the Saturday right before testing is always our highest attendance. But
Panic. Panic.
How long is the Saturday session?
From 8 to 1.
And do they just do one subject, or they go to whatever subject that they want?
They pick
The
one
one they
subject.
need.
They pick one subject for
Well, we pick it for
That they need. It's targeted. Yeah. It's targeted.
And for the academies, you have already identified those instructional areas where the students need the greatest support because of your tiers, have you not?
He has
You
his
show your
tiers.
tiers, you know where the students need the support.
We've already had our pre-test,
Yes.
interactive achievement, and we tiered our students.
Already.
And that's how we differentiate our instruction, that's how we identify the students that we pull out during targeted instruction during the day, and that, but you don't just stay the same tier all year. Every time we have a benchmark, we re-tier.
It's flexible.
Good, so they know where they need the support, that's good.
That takes diligence and consistency. And the last slide, Ms. Harris. Well, I just thought I would, when I was looking at the data, just to celebrate our small successes. And those are some areas where we either performed as well as the state or better. So I wanted to share that with you because we have to celebrate our successes. But I also wanted you to know that we are not resting on our laurels. So we expect to have 2 or 3 slides like this at the end of next year.
And this was great, very positive and stimulating, and you cited the accolades.
They have worked very hard. They really have. We have as a division, so thank you for your support as well.
Any questions, comments, any further questions? I have some.
Yes, ma'am.
When I looked at the performance. Of course, I'm excited and really pleased with what you've done, and I know that we have so many challenges, and we have to even work harder. And in looking at the J.P. King, and I think in 2 areas, maybe your deficit may have been something like a 6%, and another one 2%, and one 13%. So I feel good about that, Mrs. Francis. I want to encourage you with hard work. I know that your school will come out of school improvement. And for Mr. Chandler, we're going to do all we can to roll up our sleeves, Mr. Chandler, to support you. We know that you have quite a bit that has to be done, and I think that we should maybe look at growth in your school for next year. So we're looking at growth, and we need to probably identify what type of percentage that we're looking at without maybe, and maybe you've done that, Mr. Bell, I don't know, maybe an evaluation or whatever, so that we can applaud and look at this in an ongoing way, Mr. Chandler. And whatever your needs are, just make us aware of them. But I have one thing, when I looked at the SOL scores, I went back because it's public awareness and
That's
looking
right.
online at our website and looking at the AMOs, federal AMOs, annual measurable objectives, and where we are, and the display there of that vast gap in student performance by white students, black students. It's on the website. My question is, because we're going to have to do an awful lot, I hear you talking about how hard you work in the buildings and the support that you need, but I'm concerned about us doing something to help parents, especially for the elementary school. And I'm wondering, Mr. Edwards, Mr. Bell, and Dr. Smith,
Yes, ma'am.
if you would look at the availability of funds, and I know that we've already decided where our expenditures are going to be, but I'm looking at trying to do something with expediency. Title I funds. Do we have any money in Title I that can be used to create a parent center? I don't know, Mr. Bell. I don't even know if we have the space to do it. But we need to be sure that maybe we have somewhere in a building, and I guess and I know that Mr. Chandler probably does not have the space, but I think that for those elementary students, in order for us to close this achievement gap, if it's any way that we can get parents in, provide support for them, assist them with making and designing manipulatives, hands-on things that they can use for students at home, their children at home, it would be valuable. We can't do it all at the school. And when we look at this big gap, I mean, it's online on our website. I invite and encourage parents, and as much as now we're on television, to go on there and look at the vast gap between the performance of our white students and our black students. If we're going to raise our level of proficiency for students, then we have to face the real thing here, face reality here. We need support from parents. We need support from parents, and I mean, any money that's out there that we can use, it would certainly, and I know that you can write grants all year, Mr. Edwards, if it's at all possible to get a grant or something by which and I don't even know if the space is there. We might have to look at J.P. King and maybe even take the parents to that site, but a parent center, we need one.
Yes, ma'am, we'll look into it.
Thank you so very much.
Dr. Smith and
Yes,
Mr.
ma'am.
Chandler, for SP Morton, I would like to commend the school's efforts with your programs, like in the morning, the dads with the donuts, the moms with muffins. I do see, I've been to a couple, and I've seen a large number of parents who do come out to support those efforts. And at the end of last school year, they did have a couple of workshops that were included. I thought that was most effective. So maybe this year, try to do a couple of more of those, wherein the parents are notified in advance that there will be a parent session as well as, yes, so that they know when they come in the morning, they can plan that there's a parent session. Maybe we can have some incentives, a parent session, as well as the books for the kids, the donuts or the muffins. But I thought those things that you already have are working for you, so you want to continue.
That'd be a good enhancement.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Include something to that effect for PTA meetings too, small, 30-minute.
Yes.
Parent piece.
We had a good turnout the other night. It was very nice.
We can do that. All right. And thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Have a good
Thank you,
evening.
Dr. Smith. Madam Chair, board members, we will have a brief report of the status of the schools from our principals, starting with Mrs. Francis.
Ladies are first
Ladies
for a
first.
change.
Good evening. We had a great beginning. It has been wonderful. The kids got that little taste of success, that we had, and we celebrated, and now we've hit the ground running. Everybody was excited to be back. We had our first Parents as Partners last Thursday. I had over 200 people. We had a huge turnout. It was great. It's, I think parents are starting to want to come, and students are really involved in their learning. This year we did a MAP testing, which is Measures of Academic Progress. It's a universal screener. We do it 3 times a year, and we have just completed that. We had our first 2 data meetings today with 7th and 8th grade. Tomorrow is 6th grade. So we're starting to hear our students, find out where they are, what we need, interventions they'll need, to move forward. So we're pretty excited. Today we had a great treat. We had the J-Line Dance Company come to our school, and they're from New York City, and the kids were so excited because they couldn't believe that they came to Franklin from New York City. They just thought that was something else. Ms. Stratton, our guidance counselor, was the head of that, and she arranged all of it, and it was about bullying, in the schools, and the students loved it. We had about 4 or 5 parents that came as well. We invited everyone. But they loved it. It was just really funny with our 8th graders because, when you go to assemblies, I talk about their manners and being respectful and, being quiet. And so this is an interactive, and they had to clap and dance, and they could sing, and my 8th graders did not want to at first. They were just kind of like looking around like, oh, so we can move, and we can talk, and so they were excited. Once they realized, I was like, yes, you can interact. So then they went on, but they had a great time, and I thought that they really liked it. So that was wonderful for us. I gave you a copy of the Mighty Mustang News. I think we emailed it to you as well. So this is our first one. So I just want to invite you all to our next Parents as Partners, which is also October 9th. And that's it. It's been a great start. Kids are excited. The culture and the climate of the building is wonderful. I invite you all to come visit, come walk through. Central office has been there, somebody from central office every day, and we truly appreciate it. I mean, we do. The students are used to it, and we've had Ms. Oakley, Vicki Oakley from DOE, Ms. David, so they're used to it. And of course, Catapult is back. But I will, for the record, say right here, we're coming out this year. We are coming out this year. So this is our year to come out. And I do not want to do priority. I love Catapult, and I've enjoyed them. But I will say farewell this year. They can come back and visit anytime, but not stay. So that's it. Any questions?
Did you wish to comment on the program today?
I thought it was fun.
I know. And Mr. Bell, he saw it as well. He came, he saw it. They really, truly enjoyed it. And we did it during their specials. They did not come out of core. They did 3 shows. And so they went during their specials time. So they did not come, I'm all about protecting that instructional time. So, and our teachers are on board. It's just wonderful. The staff we're a true family. And I'm glad everybody's back together. I'm glad to see the students. And so, we're back together.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Francis. Mr. Chandler?
Good evening. Prior to the meeting, I dropped you off a little treat, which on one side is our vision and our mission and our family creed and our compact, and on the other side of our areas of focus at SP Morton. I know that seeing those results, you see that there's a lot of work to be done, but I'm confident that we may not, as Ms. Francis said, we may not come out, but we will make serious strides in a positive direction, so you can count on that. One thing that I would like to say is, as the foundational member of the school system, Franklin City Public Schools is dedicated to delivering excellence. We are dedicated to and committed to building that foundation. So everything that we do is based on that. So in looking at our compact, which is our pillars of success, the way that that reads is, in order to achieve excellence, we must be committed to curiosity, productivity, respect, and responsibility. And we recite that pledge every morning with our students right after our Pledge of Allegiance. And I think that we've seen just over the past 3 weeks a change in the culture and climate at SP Morton. Change in itself, just changing a few things will not make progress. It's the adaptation to change. And we're adapting very slowly, but surely we're making those adaptive measures. With the support of central office, like Ms. Francis said, they're in our building every day. They are welcome. They come. We have almost 700 students. Everyone is welcome. Okay. The support from the community. If you look at our areas of focus, everything that I'll talk about and everything I talk about with our faculty and our students is based on 3 main buckets. Those buckets are teacher development, student learning, and community outreach. And focusing on those 3 things are the only way that we're going to get out of the pickle that we're in. If we look at teacher development, I was told I had 3 minutes, but I'm going to take some of Travis's time. Part of building professional capacity is professional development. One way that we will do that is we will embed professional development into our daily work. We have weekly grade level meetings where we develop them professionally. We have professional learning communities that extend vertically across the curriculum, not just horizontally by grade level. Planning and preparation, as you know, we have a new lesson plan template, and we are working hard to master that and look at some exemplars and models. Instruction, walkthroughs. We're doing many, many walkthroughs and many observations, and we're also, with the help of Mr. Bell and Mr. Edwards, we also did some triangulation walkthroughs today so that we can compare and contrast things that we saw and help to lead to better results. Student learning, we have at SP Morton, we have a couple of little acronyms. The first is straight, silent, and single. If you come into SP Morton and you see our little babies walking in the hallway, okay, they're like soldiers, and they move with a purpose. They move on the right side of the hallway, and they're straight, and they're single, and they're silent. And part of that is just maintaining that structure throughout the day. The uniforms have helped dramatically, but it's also the teachers and it's the faculty that have helped to maintain that. The expectation has also increased. We expect nothing less than excellence at SP Morton, and we're going to continue that expectation until we achieve excellence. Looking at community outreach, the last bullet, one thing that I encouraged our probably about 150 parents at the PTA meeting the other night, which was huge. It was wonderful to see all those. I asked them to demand excellence from us, because that's really the only way that we're going to achieve excellence, is that when their babies go home, that they demand excellence from us. We're also going to reconstruct that foundation for the teacher-parent partnership. And as you were questioning Dr. Smith, I was grinning because you were stealing my thunder. And you kept talking about all the things that I plan on doing, or that we plan on doing as a staff. Our family reading nights, I know that those have, you've heard of those in the past. We're going to rekindle the family reading nights into, we're going to have those bi-weekly starting in the month of October. But those are also going to be adapted to include parent workshops. So part of that is going to be a family reading night aspect, and then part of that is going to be a parent workshop. The first one, that parent workshop, will be reading the MAPS data that goes home so that parents are invested in what their children know and where they need to go. So those are some of the things that we do. At any time you want to come out to SP Morton and see the great success that we've already made and be part of that, we'd love to have you. If you walk in the hallway, just make sure you're straight, single, and silent. Thank you. Any questions?
I noticed, and one thing I didn't see on here was relationship, building relationships.
Absolutely.
You being new in that building, and many times when you were giving your presentation, there were words that were key.
Absolutely.
When you mentioned your interaction with the students, the parents, and the teachers, relationship, that is so significant.
Absolutely.
And thank you so much.
You're welcome. Yeah, and one thing, I send out a weekly words, a principal's weekly words, and my focus this week was the 5 steps to build relationships, and they're so important. The success that Mr. Feltz and the faculty at Franklin High School have achieved, a big token of that was relationships. So, and that's one thing that we are going to establish at SP Morton as well. So thank you for your time.
Excuse me, Mr.
I'm
Chair.
sorry.
The words, the weekly words, are
Yes,
you
ma'am.
sending that to staff or to parents?
To staff.
To staff.
To staff,
Is
yes,
it any way
ma'am.
the parents can get on the list?
Sure, I'd be more than happy.
Okay.
Yep.
I just want to say, out of everything you said, it was excellent. The fact that you're empowering the parents, to me, I
Yes,
think
ma'am.
that is just phenomenal. Empowering the parents and creating the positive school climate.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
think that's wonderful.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Mr. Phelps? Now you have 30 seconds.
Mr. Phelps will never speak, so that's your.
Well, first of all, thank you for the recognition tonight, and good evening to everyone. You have the study hall report coming around from Ms. Mona Sumlin, our Assistant Athletic Director, to make sure you know that we are having athletic study hall, extracurricular study hall, I should say, because band's in there too, or at least it should be. Yes, it is. And we started that officially the second week of school, even though really we started the first week of school. We started taking official attendance the second week of school. We're off to a great start, I believe, at Franklin High School. It's almost scary how smooth things have started. It's kind of like you're waiting for something to happen. But we've had a great start to the school year. Our students, teachers, and staff are focused and committed to achieving even a higher level of success. We've set goals for this year because my biggest fear is that we get comfortable. Our goals for this year, I want to say publicly, are 80% for English, 80% for math, 90% for science, 90% for history, and a 90% graduation rate. And Mr. Bell came through the building and said those are some very lofty goals, and they are, because truly my biggest fear is that we take a step backwards, and we can't let that happen. So we've set these goals, and they're not just little pretty signs that we're hanging around the building. We use those as reminders in our data meetings. We bring them up all the time. Every time we have benchmarks, we're going to refer to those goals. And the biggest focus we have this year is our subgroup of special education. I shouldn't say our biggest focus, but one of our big focuses is special education, because that's one of our subgroups that is struggling right now. So we are having special education meetings. It's not necessarily weekly like we do math, but we have them as needed. We've already had one, and every 2 weeks I'm requiring the case managers to give me progress reports on all of our special education students, because I want to see their grades before we even have interim reports and before we have before report cards come out. And we've already had one check at the second Friday of school. We noticed that a couple of special education students were not passing the classes, and those case managers have gone out and met with the regular education teachers, and we're making sure we're modifying assignments if needed. We're following everything in the IEP. If it's an attendance problem, we've got Mr. Lowe on track already. And we really feel like if we move that subgroup, we will achieve those goals that we have set. As far as discipline, I was asked to address that a little bit tonight. We've only had 9 referrals this year out of 13 days. So that's a ratio of less than 1 per day. I'll put that up against any high school in Virginia. I don't know what the others out there are, but I have a feeling that's a pretty good ratio, 9 and 13 days, and some of them were just for minor things. Coach Parker, our Dean of Students, has a team of 10 students that were our frequent flyers last year as far as discipline, and he is mentoring that group. He's already had his first meeting with them. He's contacting parents to make sure they're okay with them being in his mentor group. And what he is going to do is every 2 weeks, like I check the special education students' grades, he's going to check those students' grades, and he's going to actually have parent conferences with those teachers because we're not going to depend on the parents coming and hopefully they'll come too. But Coach Parker is going to also assume the role of parent with those students. And he is... He's taken that very seriously. He gave me I told him, make it between 15 and 20. He thought a good group would be 10 because we looked at the data, and those 10 over and over and over last year were the ones who most of the time were getting in trouble. So he's already identified those, and he's working with those students. We're also working with the J.P. King administration and our guidance counselor, Ms. Massenberg. We've already squashed a couple of things this year before they even happened. And I know even today we were proactive in some things that were happening on school buses. And, we just keep our ears to the ground. And whenever we hear something, we jump on it and we're proactive. So I just want to thank you for your continued support. We're going to have a great year. We just can't be comfortable. I mean, everything feels good right now. I'm a Hokie fan, kind of like we did when everything felt good after the Ohio State game. And then East Carolina jumped on us. So we can't let East Carolina get us this year. We had Ohio State last year, but that's over with. So, I'm kind of looking at it like that. I don't know where I came up with that analogy. That wasn't even on my notes. But anyway. Any questions for me?
Well, I somewhat concur with you. If the goals are high and you believe it, Mr. Phelps, it can be done. And you've set them. I just believe that it's going to happen. Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Madam Chair, board members, that concludes the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mr. Bell. What a wonderful report this evening. Very good. So we're down to item number 5, and that's the consent agenda. And we have quite a number of minutes, and I suppose that we need to take each of those separately, as well as we also have bills for payment. So let's do the minutes, and if you've read them and you have any corrections, we'll go to July 29, 2014. Well, we've had that before, and I think that it was Mr. Williams who said that it might be best to do them separately.
It's an issue of if you weren't at the meetings,
Yes.
how can you approve the minutes?
Right. That's right.
Is it July 1 first?
Yeah.
Is the first day?
July 1, you're starting at, did we reverse those?
It's
got July 1 first. It's one first. When I looked at mine, it was just the other way. So that's fine. Let's go with July 1. I think Mrs. Kendrick uploaded those, and she started with July 29. And I didn't get a chance to look at this to see if she had reversed those. Thank you, Mrs. Kendrick. We even talked about that, but I didn't know. All right, July 1. Thank you.
I make a motion that we approve the July 1 board minutes.
I second.
It's been properly moved in second that we approve the July 1, 2014 board minutes. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? The motion is carried. All right, next we had July 8, 2014.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes for July 8th board meeting.
It's properly moved in second that we approve the July 8th, 2014 minutes. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? The motion is carried. July 29, 2014.
I make a motion we approve the minutes Franklin City School Board for July 29, 2014.
A second.
It's properly moved in second that we approve the minutes of July 29, 2014. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Wait, I have discussion on
Yes,
that.
okay.
I don't think Ms. Austin was at that meeting.
July 29,
I
wait,
think it says she was absent.
yeah.
She was absent.
So,
I'm not sure she can second it.
right, all right, so
I can second it.
will you withdraw your second, Mrs. Austin?
Okay, I would like to withdraw my second for July 29th.
All right, thank you. So, is there a second? All right, you've heard the motion. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? The motion is carried. The next is August 12th.
I make a motion, we approve the minutes from the Franklin City School Board for August 12, 2014.
The properly moved in second that we approve the minutes of August 12, 2014. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion is carried. The minutes approved. August 18.
I make a motion to approve the August 18 minutes.
A second.
So properly moved in second that we approve the August 18 minutes. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion is carried. August 21.
I make a motion that we approve the minutes from August 21st, 2014.
A second.
Been properly moved in second that we approve the minutes of August 21st, 2014. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. All right. Aye. And one abstention, Mrs. Rix Parker. So the motion is carried. August 27th.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of August 27th meeting.
We properly moved in second that we approve the minutes of August the 27th. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Mrs. Rix Parker was not here. So the motion is carried, right? And that looks like for the audience or people who are viewing this, as though we have been negligent in approval of our minutes, and that's not the case. But during August, I really applaud the efforts of the school board to avail ourselves so that we could come in almost every week. We had a school board meeting almost every week, July, August, in order to staff. Whenever the Human Resource Department had people on which we needed to act for employment, we came to meetings so that we could take action in order to avoid losing our applicants. So thank you all so much for that. Right? The next item on our agenda is that still under consent agenda, the approval for payments of bills, for the payment of bills. Did anyone have any questions about any of those items on the voucher? A motion for approval, please.
Make a motion to approve the bills for payment. Second.
Been properly moved in second that we approve bills for payment. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? The motion is carried. Right, item number 6, new business.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
board
Mr.
members, we would like to consider the addendum to the teacher performance evaluation system, where you see we have added the rating scale similar to the one we discussed for the superintendent. We've amended and added this to the policy under the teacher performance evaluation system, and we would like for you to consider this as the first and second reading so we can continue to move forward.
Is it,
No, ma'am. The rating was there, but it was in decimal format, not like the original format from William and Mary that most of the school systems are using across the state. So this is basically identical to most of the school systems.
And it brings it in line with what we're doing with the superintendent. This gives us a better alignment. And with your awareness of this and how the rubric is going to be used, will you approve this as a first and second reading? I don't see any need for us to prolong it because the more quickly we act on approve it, the more quickly it can be implemented. All right, may I have a motion?
I make a motion to approve the addendum to the teacher performance evaluation system for the first.
I second.
All right, it has been properly moved and second that we approve the addendum to the teacher performance evaluation system for first and second reading. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed, the motion is carried. Right, the first reading of policy JFC-ARA revised.
Madam Chair, board members, we are bringing forth tonight the first reading for JFC-ARA. Under the standards of student conduct, we have added, as you see in your highlighted portion on page 1, under student dress, where it protects our principals, where they're able to discipline and present consequences for students aligned with their student code of conduct handbook. Presently, that verbiage was not included, but we would like to protect our principals in this matter. We have not really had a lot of heartburn with that, thanks to our public and our community, our parents. They have basically had the kids align with the policy. But just for the future, we want to make sure that that is there. And what we've also done, we've included the dress codes from all 3 schools into this policy as well.
That's good. Any questions or comments from any of the board members?
The dress codes were already in each individual school.
Yes, ma'am. Handbook, but not in policy.
But not in policy.
Yes, ma'am.
So does this have to be a first reading? Can it be first, I mean, because we already knew what the dress codes were.
Yes, ma'am.
So really, it's just that we've included it into our policy.
That is the will of the board. You had already voted on the dress code, that's correct. So you could do first and second reading on the first page where we're just adding that sentence to protect our principals as they present consequences if needed. Because the other 3 are basically already there.
And none of that has changed.
No, ma'am, that has not changed.
So there are some additional items in this policy. I mean, so and I had a question. See, if you go down to page 5, attendance and truancy, and I don't know if everybody has read that, if you wish to keep that language the same, or do you wish to change that language this year? Because I had a question about an item there. So it will give you a chance to read the whole policy and review it if you haven't done so. Do you think that you need to look at
Madam Chair, what was your question in reference? You said you had a question in
like
reference to
Mrs.,
church?
for instance, Ms. Godwin is asking, should we approve this as a
okay.
first and second reading? If we were to have a second reading at our next month's board meeting, that would give us a chance to go through this proposed policy and read it in detail. This is a very important.
Page 5 hasn't changed anything.
No, but I'm saying now is the time that if you wish to have a change, you may do so. Truancy, I think, is a big concern, but I have several questions, but maybe let me ask them before we take the action that you wish to make, for which you wish to make that motion, Mrs. Godwin.
Can we know what your question is?
Yes, I'm going to give them. I'm going to say them. Yes, by all means. Dressing the dress code.
What page?
I'm going back to the elementary school. And that one where you say that,
These dress codes we've already approved. We already approved these dress codes. We're just putting it.
yes, when did we approve this?
Back in the spring.
Yes, that's what I'm saying, but now you can always change a policy if you prefer doing so. It doesn't have to be that you can, and I think that's why you brought it to us. Is that not correct, Mr. Bell?
Yes, ma'am, the will of the board can
Yes,
change it.
we can change it,
before we make it policy.
Yes, yes.
Well, seeing
But
as
this-
though we have questions, Madam Chairman, why don't we approve for tonight for the first reading?
Well, see, you don't approve a first reading,
Okay.
unless you do both together, first and second.
Okay.
Okay, first
Then
and
maybe we
second.
shouldn't then.
Well, that's what I'm asking.
Okay, maybe we shouldn't if there are
Yes,
questions.
right. So my question, like the coats, outerwear, coats and school colors may be worn during the day, and I didn't understand that. I mean, maybe I overlooked that, but what is the reference here for the coats, I mean, in school colors? If it were that a child needed a coat in another color, and can they do that? Are they able to do that? They aren't.
What page, Madam Chair?
That's the first.
Page 2.
Yeah, elementary,
Elementary.
page 2.
JPQ, it has to be blue or black or brown. I mean,
Right here.
it has to be a solid color.
Right here, it said coats out of.
They have to be a school color. They can't be like turquoise.
And I would not have this concern. I guess last spring, we had not gone into uniforms we had them at elementary school. We didn't have them at elementary
We did
school.
not.
We started it this year, and this is something we acted on back during the spring. And now that I see this, school colors, uniforms, are they the same at the elementary school?
Yes,
They're the same.
yes, ma'am.
I guess, and I'm just thinking about parents and the burden of coat colors, that's all. As the winter comes, I don't want to see us go down that road of having issues with that, all right? No problem. And I guess,
think that they can wear a coat to school if it doesn't have the school colors, they just can't wear it in the building.
They once they cross the threshold, you know, when they get off the bus and it's not a school color, they take it off.
They don't have to take it off.
To school, on the bus, to school. But when it's not school color, if it's bright red, neon green, neon orange, it comes off. And then when they get back, you're ready to get on the bus to go home, you can put it back on to walk out. But, you know, we've never really
Right,
never ever had an issue with
well,
that
that's
at
good.
all.
That's good.
You know, our students, it's wonderful, you know.
and I was just asking because I suppose the school colors and the uniforms are the same.
If they used ours, I know that when Dr. Kirschbaum said she used our dress code to
Good.
kind of model,
Mhm.
so it was follow the same model.
Good.
So we could all be on the same, because we have a lot of siblings in the school, you know, so.
Very good. And my next question on truancy. Even though we act on stuff, you know, and you look at the preceding year, you use that as the benchmark in determining whether or not a change is needed. When I look at the struggle that we have year after year, and I think that Mr. Phelps has already talked about some of that with truancy, and yet I see in here where a student can be absent 10 or more times with an unexcused absence, and they're consecutive. Where is that in here? 10 consecutive,
It says if a student who is under 18 years old has 10 or more unexcused absences from school in consecutive school days, the principal may notify the juvenile domestic relations court.
yes. Where was that, Mrs.?
It's on page
Page
5.
On page 5. Okay, page 5. And my question is, because we struggle so much with keeping students in school, it seems, and that graduation rate, 10 consecutive days before you maybe report it to the truant officer. I could take 5 here, 5 here, 5 here. Could I do that?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
The truant officer is contacted on the first 3 consecutive days. The process begins 3. At number 3, paperwork begins, conferences begin, notifications begin. Then at 6 to 7, that's the second phase. Then it begins there again. When it gets to actually the juvenile, or when it's getting ready to go in front of the judge, is when there's 10 consecutive days. So there is a point at 3 where there is intervention, 6 or 7, intervention, 10 is the last phase. Now, also within the first 3, sometimes you have parents who forget to send a note. So it may be unexcused at that time, but when the truant officer alerts the parent, then they say, oh, I forgot. They had a doctor's note, and that may knock out or alleviate 2 of them. But we're trying to be proactive this year, so I've asked our truant officer to identify those repeat offenders from last year. So he began the school year having conversations, visiting homes, so we won't repeat what we did this year. And then also, if we do have a consecutive day person, the second day, we're starting at the second day now, not the third day. So we're trying to make contact early.
Excuse me, Mr. Bell, with that clarification, should we add what you just said to number 2 for more clarification? Because reading this, I automatically thought that after the 10th day, it didn't say here that parents would have been notified. It looks, according to this reading, it looks like automatically that
You
the
wait 10
truancy
days.
officer would be contacting the Juvenile and Domestic Relations Court. So I think we do need some more clarification there. I do.
We can input that.
Okay.
Wonderful. Thank you. Because if students are not in school, they cannot learn. I'm serious. And when we go down this road and trying to enhance the performance of children, I think that we're going to have a well-defined policy when it comes to attendance. So if there's any way to integrate that.
Madam Chair and board
Yes.
members, now in policy JED, it does state that, but however, if you would like for it to also be there just in case, you know, someone doesn't want to cross-reference JED,
Yes.
then we
Yes.
can do that, but it
Because more
is
than
in
likely,
JED.
somebody's not going to cross-reference.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. All right. So with that in mind, I'd like to see us table action on these policies until our next board meeting. All right. Any questions? And we will have a second reading. And if there's anything else that's glaring and you look at, this is a very important policy, and if you'd like to see some changes or whatever, you
Just
could bring them
let us
back.
know. Yes,
Or
ma'am.
send them to Mr. Bell. I
Yes.
mean, it's all right to do
Yes,
it that
ma'am.
way. Thank you so much.
So on the next reading, board meeting, we will have that one amended, and any others that you see as you read, forward them to me, because we do want to make sure that the policy is tight.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. Thank you. All right. 6.3, first reading policy IKFA revised.
Madam Chair, board members, policy IKFA speaks of our locally awarded verified credits. What we've done as an amendment to this policy, you see the underlined portion where it says or participate in VSEP and score 95 to 123 on the end of course reading VSEP and 72 to 99 on the Algebra 1 VSEP. VSEP is an alternate assessment. This is in alignment with the Virginia Department of Education code. So this policy already is in our policy manual. However, we needed to add those underlying portions straight from the VSBA booklet.
Now for that one, would you like to have that as, since it's straight from VSBA, would you like to have a first and second reading?
Yes, ma'am, that one can be first and
Yes.
second because that's just straight from the code.
Right, is there a motion to that effect?
Madam Chairman,
Yes.
I make a motion that we approve policy IKFA with the amended changes and the language from, let's see, to add participation in VSEP.
VSB, okay, VS.
VSAP, yes, ma'am.
All right. It has properly been moved in second that we approve as the first and second reading the amended changes in IKFA in as much as it does include the language from Virginia School Board Association. Is there any question, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion is carried. Unfinished business.
Yeah,
No,
one more.
I'm sorry, authorization to request appropriation. That one was added,
ma'am.
authorization to request appropriation. We have a check from the Franklin and Vicinity Ministers Company in the amount of $250 for the purchase of school supplies and uniforms.
I make a motion to approve, the 2014-15 request to increase the budget by $250, which was a donation from the Franklin and Vicinity Ministers in the amount of $250.
Been properly moved in second that we approve this appropriation for a check in the amount of $250 that will increase our budget for 2014-15 to the same amount for, from the Franklin Vicinity Ministers Company for the purchase of school supplies and uniforms. You've heard the motion. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? The motion is carried. Thank you.
And Madam Chair and board members, this is the partnership, one of the partnerships that I indicated in our highlights with the Ministers' Council, and they will continue things like this throughout the year.
Thank you. And I saw CO period. Is that council?
That's council.
That's council. I said company.
Yes, ma'am.
Council, pardon me, please.
Yes, sir.
I saw CO period. Thank you. Right? Unfinished business, and that item 7.1 that was uploaded has been deleted from board docs at this time.
Yes, ma'am.
So we don't have to have action on that this evening.
Well, Madam Chair,
Yes.
board, as we look back at our minutes, we had already taken action on that in August. Yeah,
Great.
that was approved already.
Thank you. Business by school board members. Does anyone have any questions or?
I would just like to commend Mr. Bell, our superintendent, with the Superintendent's Advisory Council that meet on Wednesdays, I believe at 6:30.
Yes, ma'am.
Where we have the community stakeholders are coming in, working with you and your team. I think that is going very well. For me, coming on as a new board member, I asked questions in reference to having a rubric so that we could see the different corrective actions, and you're able to see that with the rubric that you and your team have created. And I came out on one of the meetings, I think you're working with leadership and government. I just think it's commendable. And to see all of the principals that were present, all three principals are present at the meetings, and they're working on the corrective action plan along with the community. I think you should be commended for that.
Thank you.
Terrific, and it's good to know that you've been able to go. I'm sure it's an educational experience
Yes,
as
because for
well.
me,
Yes.
some people are visual, and we kept referring to the indicators and the corrective action plan, but when I went to the advisory team meeting, I was able to see it, and you have it broken down where each group or subgroup has one of the indicators, and
ma'am.
it's going very well.
Good.
And to add on
And
with
this
Dr.
is
Leonard,
it.
this is it right here.
Rubric here.
Yes.
This is where we are so far, so I wanted you all to have this
That really
so
helped
you
me.
could review. Last evening, we worked on the measurable outcomes,
Okay.
and so we have completed basically 2 tasks. The first one of the simplified verbiage for, in layman's terms, so anyone picking this up can identify because we've created a glossary. Secondly, the
Yeah.
measurable outcomes, the evidence of implementation, you see those in there. Then last night, there was some work to add to that or delete. And then on Wednesday coming, we will look at the timeline and the status and the persons responsible. and then we should have a completed document ready for your purview, first reading in October.
Yes, I just think it's wonderful, the fact that you're taking time to make the language more understandable for the community who may not be educators, that they can pick it up and read it.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, Mr. Bell, this was the plan relative to, or the outcome relative to the state hearing, public hearing that was held here in Franklin, and those things that the public wanted to see. Are they integrated in here, Mr. Bell? How
Yes, ma'am.
they're integrated in here?
Yes, ma'am. There's,
Great.
especially in Objective 4,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of that verbiage speaks of what came out of that, I think it was May meeting?
Yes,
Am I-
it was.
May meeting,
Mhm.
and then pieces in purpose and direction in Objective 3.
Terrific. Is this going to be put online on our website?
Once it's approved from the state board, then we're able to place it on our website, and not until that time.
Very good.
Mhm.
Any questions or comments? And I suppose, considering that we will attend the state board meeting possibly in November,
Yes, ma'am, November the 20th.
then by that time, this will be completed, or all of those additions.
Yes, ma'am. This will be completed by October the 9th.
Very good.
We have to have another public hearing
Yes.
before we can actually approve it, or is that correct?
When we present it on October the 16th at the board meeting, that would be your first reading. Then we would have to have a call meeting prior to November the 7th, when it has to be submitted. And then that could be the second reading and your approval. Then we will submit it to the state board by November the 7th.
I'm trying to see what our calendar looks like, because if he's saying that he's going to have a completed document by October 9th,
To be put up on board docs, yes, ma'am, for the
Yes.
16th meeting.
right,
Yes,
so that means we come in on the 13th for Catapult's presentation. Is it any way that?
Yeah, 14.
14th, I'm sorry, 14th, Tuesday, 14th, yes. Is it any way that we can maybe, yes,
Yes, ma'am.
and then we could have the public hearing in our, when did you wish to have it? If we were to do that on the 14th, so our public hearing could be held, I guess.
Okay, Catapult is the 14th, and then
Yes.
the board meeting is the 23rd.
Mm-hmm.
The
So
board
put-
meeting is 16.
I thought the board meeting was the
That's
16th.
the 16th, that's right,
Okay.
Boss's Day.
Mm.
When did you perceive us as having the public hearing? Did you say November originally?
Prior to November the 7th.
Prior to November 7th.
Yes, ma'am.
So,
think-
if,
I think one of the things you need to remember for a public hearing is that a public hearing is only because you've actually advertised and have the document ready. And so the timing is going to be a little bit difficult for you, Mrs. King, because if the document's going to be ready October the 9th, you can't begin advertising for your public hearing until the 10th, because the document's only ready on the 9th.
and how many days do we have to advertise for the public hearing?
I would have to go back and read the statute.
Yes.
Sometimes a public hearing is advertised for a week, sometimes it's advertised for 2 weeks. So we'll have to look at a calendar, and I think that needs to be resolved before you set the last hearing, because certainly if you're going to have a public hearing, you want to have the public hearing so that the people can get the document, review the document, and be able to comment on the document at the public hearing.
So then we might have to have a call meeting. In other words, we might have to have a call meeting. If we were to have the public hearing on November the 13th, would that,
It's too late.
too late? Right? Okay. Well, we will look at it.
Yes,
You
ma'am.
get it on the 9th, And if you wish, if you can get it to us on the 14th, if that's possible, then we'll take it from there.
Okay.
How's that?
If we can get it earlier, we'll have it. Our
Yes.
plan is to have it October the 1st.
And that would be wonderful.
Yes, ma'am.
So if we could have,
Is
But
there
we're just
any-
gonna try to clean it up, make sure we have some cleanup time.
really not changing anything in it other than the verbiage.
Verbiage, maybe adding some evidences of implementation, and then creating timelines that are smart. Because some of the timelines that were created weren't smart for us, because there's nowhere in the world that, well, let's not elaborate on that.
Yeah. Okay, is there anything else that, we should discuss as, a board member concerned? Dates on the calendar for October. We have a massive calendar for October. It's going to be very busy. And I'd like to ask you, Mrs. Kendrick, if you get all of those dates out there for us, please, so that everybody can begin to plan, so that we can, make a decision about those things that we're going to attend. And I'm hoping that everyone will go to Charlottesville. I'm hoping that everyone will go to Charlottesville. So, and we do need to advertise that meeting, the meeting for Charlottesville, just as we do all others, right? Agenda preparation. Is there anything that you'd like to see on next month's agenda? And if there is no further discussion, a motion for adjournment is in order.
So moved.
It's been properly moved in second that we adjourn, and I do thank you all. All in favor? Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? The motion is carried. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Yes. Let me tell you something. Let me say something to you.
That was pretty quick. I was watching the time.